Welcome to the Rehab My Soul podcast. I am Lamiski Love, your host. We have a wonderful, wonderful guest here today. Her name is Trine. I can't say it correctly. I'm trying.
It's fine.
Trine Hansen. She is an amazing, beautiful soul from across the pond, hanging out with us. And we're just going to have a little chit chat about spirituality and how we got where we are so far. How are
Oh,
you?
yes. Hi,
How
I'm
are
good.
you?
I've been looking forward to this, to
Oh,
continue our conversation
I
because
know.
it feels like we have been talking like since forever, in bits and pieces here and there.
I can relate. It does feel that way.
Mm.
There's a familiarity with you that I find so amazing to say that we've only talked a couple of times and we've never met in person, but there's just
No.
a vibe, man. I love your vibe. So
Yeah, you
cool.
too. And
Thank
and
you.
thanks to technology and Facebook, we get to do this.
I
We would never have
know.
met otherwise,
I would
probably.
never have crossed paths with you. It's so
No,
awesome.
no.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Mm.
Cool. So what you want to talk about today? I just realized your book. I call myself what did I call myself? A religious rebel because my dad's a preacher and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And then I stumble upon your book and I realize your book is called Spiritual Rebel. What is that all
Yes.
about?
Oh, that's a good question. I needed that energy at the time, and I felt like such a rebel for breaking out of my old pattern. And I think that was it. And the whole I've always considered myself spiritual, I think. But there's also a seriousness sometimes to spirituality. And sometimes there's this idea that, oh, I'm going through all this pain to heal the world so I'm sort of dealing with all this on behalf of someone else. And I'm sort of like, yeah, I don't really know about that. And I just turned my life around from stress and depression, which was no fun, into actually enjoying my life. And I think that as well felt kind of rebellious because I had always been, pretty miserable and feeling sorry for myself. And if complaining was a recognized sport, you would be talking to an Olympic medalist here. So, I mean, it was quite a shift, and that felt big. And then one day I was talking to my brother, and he was like, "Yeah, but you always sort of been a rebel." And I was like, "What? Wait, really?" Because on the surface, I think my life has always looked pretty dull to most people. But I guess he knows me a little bit better, maybe. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you've always been rebellious, huh? Yeah, that idea of being happy, like
Mm.
when maybe other people around you aren't happy,
Yes, exactly.
like that seems very rebellious.
Yes,
And
some
it's
people almost find it offensive, right? When
yes. Yes.
yes,
Yeah. Like how dare you? Like how dare you find happiness in this miserable existence that we're supposed to
yes,
all commune
yeah,
together and agree that this is a miserable existence. Yeah. I
and
am
and in the middle of a pandemic, no
right.
less, and and a war, and well, there's always wars,
Right.
but now we have one in our backyard, so it sort of feels it's suddenly bigger and takes up more of our sort of awareness.
Yeah.
So I have been dealing with that a bit, the whole idea that being happy is selfish somehow. And and yeah, I've come to the conclusion that no, of course it isn't. If anything, this crazy world needs more happiness, not less. I mean,
Right.
we're
Right.
not doing anybody any favors by, putting on the somber face and the stiff upper lip or whatever and just be, yeah, yeah, life
Right.
sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Abraham Hicks talks
Yes.
about that. And what's interesting to me on my spiritual journey
Mm.
coming from, people have probably heard my story already. I came from a
Mm.
family that I didn't feel really accepted me, and then moved through all of that pain and hurt and betrayal
Yeah.
and isolation and being somewhat casted out, even though they would never like verbally admit being cast out just because my energy is different,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's other reasons, but 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 that recovery process for me was
Mm.
super stressful, long,
Yeah.
arduous.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those a lot of those adjectives.
Yep.
Um, so the idea of being happy,
Mm.
even though I had gone through all of that stuff,
Mm.
I still felt this desire to be happy. And
Yeah.
in a way, because of the work that I did, I was still happy, even
Mm.
though. And it's
Yeah.
such a conundrum. It is such a conundrum to, because it's like a loyalty, I think sometimes we feel. What do you think about
Yes.
that?
Yes. 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 I absolutely think so. That because it almost, yeah, feels offensive or hurtful to be happy when someone is sad. It's like social norm that you have to commiserate with people and oh, and that you can't, if someone's going through something bad, you can't just say, oh my god, that's so amazing, look at all the sort of the learning and the growing and the whatever you get to do. um, that's not okay somehow, but that's how I like to look at it. That's what I'm doing for myself when I'm, I recently had a couple of days where I was definitely not feeling happy and high flying. So I was, I had a conversation with myself, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what this is about necessarily, but I know that something good will come from it, or that it is me being on my way to something new. And even just sort of settling into that thought just helped it lift all by itself practically. And I like having that sort of baseline view on the world, like you said, this sort of pull towards being happy. And I truly think that it is our sort of default setting before, life and parents and whatever sort of teaches us otherwise. So I think we're being called back to it. And that sometimes feels a little rebellious, even though it shouldn't, because
Yeah.
I mean, we live in an eternally expanding universe. So what would be more normal and natural for us to feel that sort of expansion and adventure and growth as well? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
While you were saying that, I was thinking about a lot of stuff. My mind's going all over the place. But when you were saying that, I had a story come to mind, but I won't
Mm,
share right now. Um, but when you think about how media, the internet, social
mm,
media,
mm,
regular offline media, how, for one, how popular, because they make it easy, they make it accessible, it's entertainment if nothing else, right?
yeah.
So we're all, I realized the other day that the internet is kind of like a big high school, and you've got your different people on different grade levels. You got your
Mhm.
seniors, your juniors, your sophomores, your freshmen, right? You don't really know, but until you meet them, you realize, okay, this is a senior, okay, this is a freshman.
Yeah.
And then you've got your groups, you've got
Yeah.
your subcultures that are
Yeah.
everywhere. There's so many of them
Mm,
sitting in the different spots of the courtyard at lunch. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And then you've got your after school programs, which are some of your coaches and things where you actually go and actually better yourself. You've got,
Mm.
so it's just, I realized the internet is like a big ass high school. And I didn't even like high school. So
I've watched enough American movies to know that nobody likes high school.
For sure. I did not. I didn't like college when I was there. I didn't like high school when I was there. It was crazy. So you realize, for me, that it's a choice. It's a choice who you want to hang out with, who you
Yeah.
want to hang out with. You know what I'm saying? You can
Mm.
hang out on all of the media that is depressing,
Oh,
and you
yes.
can sit in that group and you can sit there
Hmm.
and get your
Hmm.
gold medal in complaining, you know? Or you can tune in to the nerds, who
Yeah.
are just
Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
music and making art and just hanging
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I call those the nerds, right? And then you can hang out with the people that want to be better, the
Mm.
people that practice at lunch, the people that, you know what I'm saying, like just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
metaphor of it all.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get to choose, and so that
Hmm.
choice, because I think even choosing is rebellious in itself, right? Because you're just supposed to go
Yeah.
where people think you should go.
Yes. Yes.
But getting to
Absolutely.
choose is the
Mm.
first level of rebellion, right? You
Yeah.
choose at any point where
Hmm.
you want to go and who you want to hang out with,
Yeah.
what you want to consume, what
Hmm.
vibe you want to feel.
Yeah.
So, how in your life has the act of choosing to be happy
Hmm.
been way more beneficial or less beneficial, do you think? Because I think we make a sacrifice when we choose happiness, because there's some people we just can't hang around anymore.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
Um, yeah, that's a good question. And and yeah, people don't necessarily get it. I mean, especially um, my parents. They sort of just uh, kept treating me the same, sort of like, oh, it's probably just a phase. You'll get over it, kind of. um, and then there's my brother, who is always sort of a role model to me because he's always been doing his thing. He's always pursuing what he wanted to do in his dream. And he's always had this sort of idea that, of course, he can have everything. Of course, he can be happy. And why shouldn't his life be amazing?
right.
Um, so, well, growing up in the shadow of that was not necessarily always fun, but it did give me, this example of someone choosing to live like that. And I remember a conversation I had with him, because again, I always felt that life was unfair, and that everything was working out for him and nothing worked out for me. And we were having a conversation, and he was like, you know what, sister, the only difference between you and me is that I believe I could do anything. And I was like, yeah, yeah. And I always believed in that. I always believed, that our thoughts and our mind creates our reality. I just i just simply could not crack the code. I was like, I knew in theory it was true, but it just seemed like I was the one exception in the universe, that for me it just wasn't possible.
Oh,
Yeah. And I think that's why I spent so long, because my story is about more than a decade of stress and depression, and sometimes really, really this deep, dark, emotional hole. Um, and I think it took all that time because I had to get to that point where I was like, nope, no more. I'm not having any more of this, because I had been chasing all the things I was supposed to do, reading all the self help books and doing the meditations and the breathing and the exercises and the journaling and all these things. I still do most of it, and now I love it. But back then, it just wasn't really working. So I got pissy, actually, and sulky, and I was like, nope, this is not fair. I have been doing all the right things and nothing is working for me. So now I'm going to quit doing all that. And now I'm just going to do whatever I feel like. And that felt rebellious, if nothing else. I mean,
Right.
being a people pleaser all my life, and all of a sudden just deciding that no, I'm gonna do things my way now. I have sort of run out of options, because otherwise I would still have been chasing this person or that person's idea or this advice or that recommendation. But I sort of got to a point where it felt like I had tried everything. So it was the only option left, was to try and do things my way. And I simply think that no longer chasing externally external happiness, that created this space inside of me where it could grow naturally, and where
Right.
I could hear my own sort of inner guidance to what happiness even is for me. So
Yeah. That's crazy how you said, basically, kind of summarizing,
mm,
mansplaining what you just said. Womansplaining. Um so basically you said, like, you tried everything, and then
mm,
you finally got to the point where you ran out of options and you were like, let's just do it my way.
yep.
Isn't that crazy how it's always the last
Yes.
option? How
Yes.
like, that is the most infuriating part.
Yes.
Is it's the last option all the damn time.
Yes. Yep. 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 And I still run into it sometimes, because I really, really believe that if something feels like hard work, it's because we're doing it wrong.
Mm.
But I still, doing all the things, following, there's the webinars and the workshops and all the things telling us how we're supposed to do things. From publishing the book, you have to do this, and this, and then you have to promote it like this, and then you have to, create an email list, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. And again, I was new to all of it. So I was like, yeah, sure, I need some advice. And because I was blank. So I did a lot of research, and then I tried this for a bit and that for a bit. But thank God I'm getting quicker at noticing when things are misaligned, because that's actually probably the best thing that came from spending all that time being stressed and depressed, because I sort of develop an allergic reaction to anything that feels inauthentic, because I spent so much time, you know, ugh, doing all that. So now it's like almost like one of those red game show buzzers going off in my head, like meh, if I start to feel myself chasing, oh, this structure will set you up for life. Your book will be a bestseller and la di da di da di. And yeah, if it doesn't feel right, I'm no longer gonna be doing it. So, but that means I have to figure out my own path. And the first thing a coach will always tell you pretty much is that you have to find someone who's doing what you want to be doing, and then you model them, and then you're on your way to the same success as they have. And I'm
Yo.
like, nah,
I used to
nah,
hate that.
yeah, yes. I mean, it might be quicker to use a proven method or whatever, but what is the fun in that? I mean, if it's not working for me anyway. So that's definitely something I've learned. I would much rather do things my way and have fun in the process and be authentic and enjoy it, than race to the finish line. Because then what? Is there
Right.
even a finish line? Because there's
Right.
always something more we want. So even though it's an annoying cliche, sometimes it really is about enjoying the journey, isn't it?
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Because if we have to tick all the boxes, if we have to get all this sort of the happiness, if we have to have the amazing career and the body and the money and the lover and the marriage and the house and all these things before we can be happy, then that's a lot of chasing, a lot of hard work, and I usually say that we shouldn't let circumstances hold our happiness hostage, because we can be happy anyway. We can be happy before we make the $1 million. We can be happy before we lose the 20 pounds. We can be happy before we meet the one and only. And I kind of believe that getting happy first is kind of a shortcut, because we're much more likely to meet someone when we are in a good place. We are much more likely to do well at work if we are in a good place. And I don't know about you, but if I'm in a good place, I'm more likely to want to go for a walk than just sit on my sofa and watch Netflix. Whereas, so I don't think there's any downside to choosing to feel good and be happy where we are.
Mm, for sure.
Mm.
Sometimes it's so hard though. Like, I'm
Mm.
mad right now where I'm currently at, but I'm all of a sudden supposed to be happy all of a sudden where I'm currently at. Like, what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah.
It's a process. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a shift in thinking. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you this. In this idea of choosing happiness, even
Mm-hmm.
when we're among people that may not be happy, because
Mm.
those people are always going to exist no matter where we are.
Yeah.
What's the difference between what you're talking about versus toxic positivity?
Hmm. Ah, well, toxic positivity. Oh, I mean, it's so fake, isn't it? And so shallow and so hollow in so many ways that I don't I don't even think they can be compared, really. Not if you have had the real thing. I don't think anybody's gonna sell you the other version. Um, because it feels so different, doesn't it? Being like, oh, how are you? Oh, I'm great, thank you. And it's you can almost sort of feel the stiff smile and the whole sort of um and I and sure, a lot of us been sort of trained to do that, because we're supposed to say, oh, I'm doing great. And you were talking high school, and then there's high school reunions, isn't there? uh, where you definitely have to show up and pretend to be all that. But the thing is, that is so exhausting, pretending to be happy. It takes a lot more work than to do the work to get happy, I think. but
Yeah.
but I mean, we're creatures of habit. So if that's what we are sort of used to, and again, it's about the people we're with. So if that's how it is in our circle, I can definitely see it can be difficult to break out of. um, and and I like that, as you said, you can actually choose who you want to hang out with, especially in because we have this whole online world. So even if you can't replace your immediate family just overnight, um, you can still look for the people that feel like your people.
Right.
And I mean, I believe in law of attraction, and the way I see it, um, Facebook's algorithm or social media algorithms, they're just the tech version, really, because if you know, click the little read more on all the sort of ramblings about either the pandemic or about this event or that event or politics or whatever it is, if you engage with those things, even if you just read the whole post, the algorithm will pick up on it and be like, oh, she really likes her politics, so let's give her more of that. And all of a sudden your feed is filled with that, and with all the righteous indignation on both sides of the aisle, because clearly we're right and they're wrong. And but you can choose what you want in your Facebook feed. I have friends. people I have met or have known in real life that I have unfollowed so that I'm still friends with them. I just don't want to see what they're posting because it drains it
Oh my
drains my
god.
will to live
I
to see
know.
that.
That's a whole nother episode of just talking about how people
Mm,
have replaced real life with social media.
mm,
And I've never been that person. Like, I've always held dear the people that I know offline.
yeah.
And that's
Mm,
a different relationship to me. And if I ever, were to be so privileged to meet you in person, that's a different that recategorizes who you are to me.
mm,
Um but yeah, we can talk about that another episode. I might have you back
yeah.
on. We can chat about that.
I Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I haven't had enough people, sort of real world people, because I think my people are sometimes or were in the past so few and far between that I was really happy to be online meeting people. And that's, well, here's a little piece of information about me that not everybody knows, but I spent 10 years playing World of Warcraft.
Oh,
So
cool. I've heard of it. I've never played it though.
no, no, I think it takes a special kind of nerdy or geeky to go down into that rabbit hole. But it sort of coincided with while I was feeling the worst. So it was my escape and into this online world. And most people don't really get it, but I have met the most amazing people at that game. And there's of course horrible trolls as well, and there's all kinds, just like out in reality. But I got to talk to people from all over the world again that I would never have met. And because we had this thing in common, and sometimes you would meet people and play with them for half an hour because you have this sort of task that needed a team of people to complete. So you would get to talk a bit, and then there are people you would hang out with for years. I had some of those people, and I really enjoy getting to know people that way, because to me there's a kind of safety in and comfort in being a screen away from people. And to me, that makes it very easy to just be who I am, because
Mm.
I don't have to pretend to be happy. I don't have to pretend to be, you know, oh, everything in my life is so perfect, because everybody who's playing that game for as much time as I did, that's people who feel that need to have a break from real life. So we have that in common as well. Um, and I
Hmm.
actually met some of them in real life as well, because we got to spend that much time together that they may have crossed into that other category you're talking about.
Yeah. Cool.
Hmm.
Well, I definitely enjoy the chat on choosing happiness and being a spiritual rebel. I think that I identify with that title. It's
Hmm.
awesome to see your book. So, where can we find you online? We are running out of time. I'm going to edit that part out, but just plug your stuff and then it's going to cut off.
Yes. My corner of the internet is called trinesPlayground.com. And that's where you can find my podcast, my book, my upcoming festival, Happy and Aligned, and anything else you might want to know about me. It's on the website. So
Awesome.
yeah, thank you very much. This has been really good.
Same here. Thank you for being here.